Hi guys, so Ed Davey is the new leader of the Liberal Democrats in the UK, and he was invited on Sophie Reid's Sky News to talk about his party and what their objectives are. He also talked about rejoining, the possibility of rejoining the European Union. Let's hear what he had to say.
Relevant is the word. At the same time, though, others have tried before and failed. Tim Farron, Vince Cable, Joe Swinson. Why should you be any different?
Well, my colleagues did sterling jobs, but it was a difficult environment. Obviously, the biggest issue of the day then was Brexit. We took a particular position. I've always felt that we needed to not just be a one-trick party, we need to talk about a whole range of issues. I'm particularly keen on the economy, on jobs, making sure particularly that this recession that we are the party, talking about the economy, about green jobs and the greener economy. I've talked about a fairer society and a more caring country. I want the Liberal Democrats to be known for all the values and all the ideas that we have. But before we start talking about our policies, I think it's very important that we listen and we shape our agenda with our liberal values, but we shape that agenda to the concerns and fears, hopes and dreams of the British people. So I'm not going to sort of lay out the policy agenda of the future. What I'm going to lay out is how I'm going to listen to people around the country, the whole country.
So, you say you don't want to lay out a policy agenda, and I get that, you've only just been in the job, but at the same time, listening to you, these things are quite vague, I guess. You know, listening to people, saying that you want to be, firm on the environment, on being fair on the society. But what's your single radical policy, the kind of thing that's actually going to cut through to the people you spoke to in the fish and chip shop?
Well, Sophie, with respect, if I'm doing a listening exercise, it's not about one lunchtime shift in a fish and chip shop. That is the start of a whole set
what's the single radical?
Okay, but the problem is you need to have some policy. You need to have something that you can plant your flag on. For example, defending the NHS, or rejoining the European Union, or looking after the elderly, or education, or defense, or rule of law, or something. You need to say, this is our core belief, and everything else is a listening exercise. What he seems to be doing instead is doing focus group work, meeting with public and saying, okay, what do you like and what do you not like? And then in some way, no, I hope I'm wrong here, but this is the impression I'm getting. Going out, meeting with the public and saying, what do you like, what do you not like, and then building policy around that. That's not the way to run a party. You need to say, this is what our goals are. This is what we stand for. In a similar way that Boris Johnson said he was the Mr. Brexit. He stood on Brexit. Now, all of his other policies, people basically ignored because Brexit was a particular situation, to say the least. But he was, Brexit was his baby. After, of course, it was passed over to him from Nigel Farage. Jeremy Corbyn, defending the NHS, jobs. You have to choose something, plant your flag there and say, this is our rallying point. This is the core issue that we stand for. You can't run it as some sort of focus group where you ask the public to provide you with policies. The problem with that is, it sounds good in theory, but the problem with that is if you go to one city, they'll say, we want someone to defend the NHS. You go to another city, they'll say, we want more for education. You go to another city, they say, immigration is a problem. In another city, they'll say, we need more immigration, or we're welcoming immigration. You can't say, let's listen to the public and form our policies from that. I'm not saying to ignore the public. You go to the public and say, let me know about these policies. Are they popular or not? And then you can refine your manifesto around that. But you don't just go there to the public and say, give us some ideas. It's a recipe for disaster.
Policy that you want to offer.
Well, but Sophie, I want to listen first. And I'm sorry if you find that vague and unsatisfying, but I think it's what we ought to do in the Liberal Democrats. We've been sent a message in the last 3 elections which have been very disappointing, and we've not been successful.
Actually, I disagree with that. Okay, the last election, Brexit was the main issue, and you are running as a Remain party. But I think if you actually presented your policies in a normal election, people would vote for you. And people did actually vote. I think it was the number of votes for the Liberal Democrats actually increased in the last election. The problem was first past the post. You were completely decimated during first past the post. Now, maybe I correct myself. It was Remain party's votes had actually increased, but maybe not specifically the Liberal Democrats. But the main problem is first past the post. You're a smaller party. First past the post is pretty much designed for a two-party state, and you struggle to win seats, unfortunately.
I want to face up to that. And the first way of facing up to that is not setting out your radical agenda, is actually listening. And it's a serious...
No, you need to have some sort of radical agenda. The country is extremely polarized at the moment. Saying we're going to listen to the people is not going to work. You need to have a radical agenda. You need to win people over to your side. Not they need to win you over to their side. You have to win people over to your side. You need to say, this is our agenda. Let's say, for example, the NHS. You said, we are not going to allow the NHS to be sold off. We're going to fight tooth and nail to defend the NHS. And then you go up and down the country, meeting with doctors, nurses, medical staff, people working in hospitals, patients, people who use the NHS, people who would be affected if it was sold off. You run your manifesto on that, defending the NHS, making sure it won't be sold off. You continually attack Boris Johnson and the Tories every time you're in Parliament. Why are you selling off the NHS? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you defending it? We are the party to defend it. That's what I would do. Now, you don't have to choose the NHS, but you have to choose some subject. It could be the environment. But hammer away, become the party that is associated with that issue. So when people go to vote, and if you have rammed it into them continually that this issue is important, and this issue is important generally, be it the NHS or the environment, people will vote for you. Doesn't matter who the candidate is, as long as they have your party after it, they will associate it with that. In the same way, people voted for Boris Johnson. Many people didn't care about Boris Johnson. Some people even called him Boris Johnston. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Boris Johnston. But why? Because they associated him with Brexit. They were like, I'm tired of Brexit. Let's, vote to get Brexit done. He was a complete slimeball, a complete liar, a complete charlatan. But it succeeded. He knew this message would resonate with ordinary people. And it worked. You have to do the same. I'm not saying to go to the levels of Dominic Cummings, but you need to have a clear message, a clear manifesto, and fight on those grounds. And it has to be grounds that other parties are not standing on.
Exercise. It's going to go on for months and months. I'm going to every part of the country, and I'm going to be there with people in their jobs, in their organisations, in their businesses. I'm going to be talking to people who are carers, people who are teachers, people in their community. And that is how I think
And that's okay. You can do that. You meet with people, ask what their concerns are. But you need to have something, some goal, some objective, some rallying cry to get people to your side.
As leader of the Liberal Democrats, I can then really understand people's issues and fears and hopes. And let's remember, we are at an extraordinary moment in our country's history, in our world's history. COVID is changing everything. It's had a dramatic impact on the country's health, hits particular families tragically, and of course it's having a massive impact on our economy and the world's relations. One's got to understand, first of all, how people are coping with that and how politicians can reach out and help them, but also what they're thinking about the future post-COVID. What do they hope that happens after this? Do you want to go back to the status ante, what it was like before, or do they have I hope that we can build something better. And I want to listen to that, to understand what their dreams and hopes are for a post-COVID world.
We've got the message on the listening exercise loud and clear. Now, in an interview today, David Frost, the UK's chief Brexit negotiator, has said the UK won't blink first in the negotiations. What do you think the chances of a trade deal are? 50%, higher, lower?
Oh, Sophie, it's very difficult to know if you're not in the room. But I do feel that the government is being very reckless and risky.
Reckless and risky? It's a complete and utter shambles. You know, Ed, this is an issue. You are a Remainer, or I believe you are. You're head of the Liberal Democrats, so I assume you are a Remainer. You know, take out your you-know-what and show that you're angry about this. You know, reckless and risky. These are not the adjectives I would use to describe the current negotiations. Show some passion. Say, look, this is an absolute disgrace. This is ridiculous. We have wasted years and years of crap. This is just a pile of crap. What the hell is going on here? This government are incompetent. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're throwing away this country's future. They've destroyed the union pretty much over this issue. They don't know whether they're coming or going. They're sending idiots over to Brussels. You know, be a bit passionate about it. People would actually sit up and say, "What? Who is this guy? Wait a minute. Why is he so angry?" And listen to you.
We're in a recession now. It wasn't foreseen when Brexit was first talked of and during the referendum and at the last election. This recession due to COVID, some people say maybe...
Sorry, I don't mean to be interrupting all the time, but I think this is probably one of the issues that many people have with the Liberal Democrats. They have no fire in them. I know they're a moderate party. They position themselves, or they believe they position themselves between Labour and the Conservatives. But you don't have to be boring. And I'm not talking about, you know, exciting like Boris Johnson. Maybe exciting is not the right word. But passion. If you show that you're passionate about something, people will listen to you. You have to be passionate. And I'm not talking about fake passion. If you're a Remainer, you're living in the UK. I believe what's happening with Britain and the European Union and through Brexit is an absolute disaster. I care about people in the UK. I have family, I have relatives, I have friends, a lot of friends through this channel living in the UK that I care about. They're going to suffer because of this crap. And I seem to care more about it than Ed does. And it's a bit frustrating because he's in a position where he should be shouting. He should be banging his fist. He should be breaking things because he represents a party that wants to remain in the European Union, I hope.
The worst recession, deepest recession for 300 years. And in that context, the idea of a no-deal Brexit on top of the COVID recession, I think would be a disaster for people's jobs, for people's livelihoods, for business up and down the country. And I thought it was very noticeable last week when business was saying the government isn't prepared the borders properly, whether it's a deal or a no deal. They're not ready. What has this government been doing? You know, it's had a shambolic handling of COVID. It's clearly not making the necessary preparations for a no-deal Brexit or any form of Brexit. And, you know, I am really, really struck by how businesses are becoming more alarmed about how this government is undertaking these negotiations. So we're used to reading these headlines about how tough they're going to be. I want to know, are they going to be successful for people's jobs and people's livelihoods?
They won't be. You know, don't say I hope they will be, or I want to know if they will be. They won't be. But just, you know, they won't be. So just say they're not going to be successful. I know the Brexiteers will lose their minds. Oh, how can you say that? You're undermining the negotiations. No, you're not. He's not in the negotiations. He can't undermine the negotiations. He can't undermine the British government. He should say, this is a disaster. They're not going to get a good deal. Because it's impossible to get a good deal. The best deal we had, we threw it away.
running out of time, so just quickly, could the Lib Dems campaign to rejoin the EU in the future?
Look, we've opposed Brexit.
When a politician answers, look, then you know the answer is no. If a politician truly believes in something, they will say yes or no. But when they're wishy-washy, you can more or less put that down as no.
Everybody knows that. But the government got a majority, they've pushed it through. And now the issue is there going to be a deal or a no deal, the shape of that? And then beyond that...
They are completely hung up on this idea that, well, Boris Johnson got his majority, so, we need to keep quiet. No. To hell with Boris Johnson's majority. Your position shouldn't change. You don't say, well, Boris Johnson got his majority, now I just need to keep quiet, shut the hell up and stay at home. No, you should be more passionate about it now.
The issue is, can we have good relations with our European friends and neighbours?
Yes or no?
As a pro-European party, we are Sophie, we are a pro-European party. I'm passionately pro-European. I want to be as close to our European friends and colleagues as possible because that's in the interest of the people of Britain.
See, he's avoiding the response to say yes or no because he's afraid that there will be some backlash. This is spineless. Say yes, but I don't know whether he actually would agree with me on this. But my position would be say, yes, we will campaign when it's possible to rejoin the European Union. Why not? If we are successful, we rejoin. If we're unsuccessful, we don't join. We're going to try because we think it's better to be part of the European Union than outside. How can a Remainer, someone who claims to be a Remainer, say, well, Boris Johnson got his majority and now we have to keep quiet? That doesn't change the fact whether Britain is better in or out. You can say, look, we're out now, but we will campaign to rejoin. You could actually run that as a manifesto. The problem with people like this is that they're looking at a very short and narrow window. They're looking at politics of today, or this week, or this year, and they're not looking at it over the long term. Once Brexit takes place, it's going to be a disaster. I hope it will not be a disaster, for the same reason I said before I care about people in the UK. I actually hope Boris Johnson is successful. I would prefer, to lose credibility and for Boris Johnson to be successful, because I care more about the British people, their livelihoods, their lives, their existence, more than my own ego. He should care about this. He should be saying we need to rejoin the European Union because we're better in the European Union. We were better in, we need to rejoin. Now, he's not saying we're going to force it on people. We can have a referendum. We can vote, people can vote for these parties that support rejoining, and then we can rejoin in some way. You don't have to give detail about how to rejoin. You just say we would like to rejoin. In the same way, the Brexiteers never gave detail about how to leave the European Union. They just said we want to leave. You have to play their game. And I'm not talking about it from a dishonest point of view. You just say we want to rejoin. How we rejoin, we will see. We believe it's better to be in the European Union than out of the European Union. That was a fact. If you're a Remainer, you agree with me on that. Now, people are afraid to say this because they think that there's going to be some backlash from the Brexiteers. And my response is, to hell with the Brexiteers. Whatever you say, they will criticize you. They hate you. They will never vote for you. So why are you trying to win them over or, reach out to them? They're too far gone. Ordinary people, when you explain to them, look, I think it would be a good idea to return after Brexit because you will see that Brexit will be a disaster. Ordinary people will sit back and say, okay, well, let's see how things go, and maybe you will be right. The hardliners will always think leaving will be better. Even when, there is a disaster, they will say, this is better than being part of the European Union. Because they're ideologues. They're sycophants. You can't get through to them. And I'm not saying all Brexiteers are like that. I'm saying there's a certain wing within the Conservative Party, within the Brexit Party, or even with all of the Brexit Party. But the voting bloc that put Boris Johnson in, not all of those people think that way, but a certain amount of them do.
Okay, I'm not clear on that answer still.
No, I mean, I can't see us at the next election being anything other than pro-European, but I also think we need to face the situation as it is. Britain will have left the European Union. I think the idea that people want to revisit this in 2 or 3 years' time,
okay.
I think that's for the birds. But
It's for the birds. People want to revisit it. What's wrong with revisiting it? Doesn't mean that you have to do it. Doesn't mean that you actually will have a referendum. You don't have to sign up to anything now, Ed. Doesn't mean that considering something means I'm signing up to it. Now, I can say I'm considering buying a new car. Doesn't mean that as soon as I say that, somebody is going to stick a contract in front of me saying, buy this car. You can say, this is what we care about the European Union. This would be something we definitely would consider. Or even at that, you're being extremely hedging. But I still think you should say, we are a Remainer party, unless you've changed. But I think the Liberal Democrats are still a Remainer party, although Remain and Leave are gone. The UK is out. It's no longer relevant. It's no longer valid, I should say, to use those terms. But to say we want to rejoin because we're better inside and we will be proven right. That's what I would say.
We will remain passionately pro-European, determined to get the benefits of working with our friends and neighbours.
And just finally, Extinction Rebellion. A few moments ago, Diane Abbott said that there were the protests that they did outside those printing presses were legal, that they were in a tradition of the suffragettes in direct action. Do you agree with that?
No, I mean, Liberal Democrats have been passionate about tackling climate change. As Climate Change Secretary, I nearly quadrupled Britain's renewable power. We won very ambitious targets at the EU and the United Nations. That is the way we tackle climate change, working together. I think we need to bring the country together to realise we have a climate emergency alongside the COVID health and economic emergency. My concern with what we saw was it actually divides people. It can undermine the message about the climate emergency. And I fear when you damage the free press in particular...
The free press. Okay, so he's talking. So if you're not familiar, this Extinction Rebellion carried out a protest where they blocked printing presses for the Daily Mail and the Sun and another one of Rupert Murdoch's newspapers. Now, I am completely behind these people. Why? Because I'm against the freedom of the press. No, this is not the press. The Sun, the Daily Mail are not the press. They're propaganda pages for the Conservative Party. Look, a free press is dead, my friend. It's gone. It's rotting away in the ground. It's no longer with us. It's gone, okay? There is no free press anymore. You have propaganda and you have maybe some neutral small outlets somewhere. But what the Extinction Rebellion were doing was they were trying to stop. They were trying to put a cork into the tap that delivers this poison into the minds of the British public. The Daily Mail, the Sun, I don't know whatever other newspapers were published in this particular printing press. They poison minds. It's not about delivering news. There was a time when the newspaper would deliver the news. They would say, this is what happened today. And there would be a section where it would be about opinions. That's gone now. Not even now. It's been gone a long time. The Daily Mail, the Sun, or whatever, they're not about delivering news. They're about delivering opinion. And where does opinion come from? It comes from either Rupert Murdoch or the Conservative Party, or working both hand in glove. That's it. It's propaganda. These protesters are trying to stop this propaganda. They should be commended. They're heroes. Rupert Murdoch has poisoned the minds of people through his media outlets. And it's ironic, this is Sky News. He used to be, I think he still owns part of it, or he's no longer he doesn't control it completely, but he has a stake in it anyway. Or maybe it's completely gone. I'm not fully up to date on it. But he did own it at one stage. He has bribed and controlled politicians in the UK for decades. Politicians would go on their hands and knees to Rupert Murdoch and say, please, can you use one of your newspapers to support our party, be it Labour, be it the Tories? And he would say, yes, of course, I will give you whatever support you need. I will tell my editors and my journalists to write positive news about your party, about your ideals, about your policies. And the public will lap it up, thinking it's news, thinking that it's fact, and be conned by it. Democracy. This is undermining democracy. When a billionaire who owns a media outlet is able to tell the public how to freaking vote. How is that a freaking democracy? It's disgusting. These printing presses should be... Allegedly. I have to be careful what I say. This is undermining democracy. You cannot allow a media outlet to undermine democracy, to pump poison into the minds of the general public and convince them that X is a problem and Y is not a problem. Convince them that when Y is the real problem. Convince them to vote against their own interests. To convince them that certain people, certain people from other countries are the problem, unless they are people who are donating to the main parties. It's disgusting. And for a politician to stand there and say, well, we need to defend the freedom of the press, is even more disgusting.
That is shooting yourself in the foot. There was an interview with David Attenborough in one of those newspapers that didn't get distributed. David Attenborough is, the environmentalist par excellence. He has a lot to say about climate change and how we protect our environment. I think stopping people reading David Attenborough is not a good message.
No, this is just ridiculous. David Attenborough has written books. David Attenborough has websites. David Attenborough has hundreds of thousands of hours of video that people can view. David Attenborough was probably hired to write a piece to balance out, or not to balance, but to give cover to these types of newspapers. Because these newspapers would be 99% absolute trash, and then there'd be the 1% news or 1% valid opinion. That's how they work. It's in order to cover their arses, so that if the government eventually, some government in the future were to say, well, you are a propaganda paper, and they would respond, no, look, we have this factual article from David Attenborough. See, we're not completely propaganda. That's their way of covering themselves. In the same way you have in the United States, Fox News bringing on reasonable commentators to attack Donald Trump or whatever. This is in order to give them cover against criticism. Look, yes, we have our right-wing ones and we have our left-wing ones, or our right-wing ones and we have our moderate ones. This is about giving cover. It's not about presenting facts or informing the public. The media informing the public is long gone. And I think Ed Davey is actually pretty much a disgrace here by defending the likes of Rupert Murdoch's media outlets. I don't know, maybe he's looking for some support from them. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?